School District Board of Education regular action meeting on August 23rd, 2021. Time is now 6:30 p.m. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? The New Jersey Open Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or agreed upon. In accordance with the provision of this Act, the Matawan Avenue Regional School District Board of Education advertised this meeting on January 8, 2021 in the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger. This notice was sent to the municipal clerks of the Borough of Matawan and the Township of Aberdeen and the Matawan Aberdeen Public Library. The notice was also placed on the district's website. Ms. Case, can we please have roll call?
Mr. Ahern?
Here.
Dr. Delaney? Ms. Friedman?
Here.
Ms. Martinez?
Here.
Mr. Montone?
Here.
Ms. Brzezwar?
Here.
Ms. Whalen?
Here.
Ms. Osborne?
Here.
Mrs. Scully?
Here. Be it resolved that a closed session be convened for the purpose of discussing privacy, personnel, and legal matters. The subject matter of these discussions will be disclosed to the public when the reason for confidentiality subsides. Although the board cannot guarantee it, the length of the executive session is estimated to be 30 minutes, after which the public meeting of the board shall reconvene and proceed with business. Action may be taken. Can I get a motion in a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Can I get a motion in a second to return to public session?
I'll second.
All in favor? For the minutes, can I get a motion in a second to approve regular action meeting minutes July 26, 2021, executive session meeting minutes July 26, 2021?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Ahern?
Here.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Martinez?
Yes.
Mr. Montone? Ms. Brzezwar?
Yes.
Ms. Whalen?
Yes.
Ms. Osborne?
Yes.
Mrs. Scully?
Yes. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the correspondence to the board, which is listed on the agenda?
I'll motion.
Second.
For the board president's report, we're actually going to move that after board business tonight. So with that, we're going to move to curriculum and instruction. Mr. Bachman.
Good evening. For curriculum and instruction, Part A, travel. We have 2 staff members attending the Handle with Care recertification training. We have 1 staff member attending the Rutgers University Dare to Lead training. 1 staff member attending the NJASA Women's Leadership Conference. And at no cost, 1 staff member attending the NJASA Women's Leadership Conference at a cost, and 1 staff member attending the Curriculum Associates Leadership Symposium. 1 note, the date for the Women's Leadership Conference is September 30th and October 1st, so we want to reflect that. Moving on to Part B, curriculum instruction. Item number 1 is asking the board to approve the summer 2021 curriculum guide update to align with the 2020 NJSLS and updated standards. Item number 2 is asking the board to approve all existing district curriculum and textbooks for the 2021-2022 school year as an annual reapproval. Item number 3 is asking the board to approve the evaluation of observation instruments for the 2021-2022 school year as an annual reapproval. Item number 4 is asking the board to approve the utilization of a highly effective teacher practice protocol as a flexibility option for highly effective teachers during the 2021-2022 school year as allowed by Achieve NJ. Item number 5 is asking the board to approve the 2021-2022 district professional development plan. Item number 6 is asking the board to approve the submission of a SOA or Statement of Assurance to the New Jersey Department of Education. Item number 7 is asking the board to approve the 2021-2022 School Improvement Panel or SKIP committee members. SKIP committees for each school are mandated per Achieve NJ. Those individuals are outlined on the agenda. Those in red would serve on the District Evaluation Advisory Committee for DEAC. Item number 8 is the annual reapproval of the following documents as indicated through A to F. And that is all for curriculum instruction.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second to accept the agenda?
I'll motion. I'll second.
Any questions or comments from board members? Okay. Special Services, Ms. Perez?
Good evening, everyone. Under Student Services, under item number 1, we're asking for board approval for the memorandum of understanding between the Matawan Aberdeen Regional School District and the Community YMCA, which will provide counseling and social services for students at all schools effective July 1, 2021 through June 30th of 2022. Under item number 2, we're asking for board approval between the district and the Board of Education to approve the Investors Foundation Grant Agreement in the amount of $1,000 awarded to Keys Academy Recovery High School to support student wellness and health. Under item number 3, we're asking for board approval for the elimination of the following special ed programs: Ravine Drive Special Class Program, Emotional Regulation Impairment, formerly known as Behavioral Disabilities, and at the Matawan Aberdeen Middle School Special Class Autism Program. The rationale is due to student enrollment. We will no longer need our K-3 special class program at Ravine Drive, nor the autism program at MAMS this school year. Under item number 4, we're asking for board approval for the establishment of the following special ed program at Lloyd Road Elementary School, special class, emotional regulation impairment. Again, due to this, the establishment is due to the student enrollment. As the students transition from Ravine Drive, we now need a program at Lloyd Road. Under item number 5, it's a revision, originally approved on 4/27/2021. We're asking for board approval to approve the partnership between the district and the Institute for Student Achievement to participate in social and emotional academic development initiative from spring 2020 through June 2022, 30 months. This initiative integrates SEED skills into core academic classes as well as school and district culture. Services include 11 days total to provide leadership coaching, ELI coaching, mathematics coaching, science coaching, and social studies. This is funded through a grant. Any additional costs for additional workshops will be $2,000 per workshop at the Matawan Regional High School at a cost to not to exceed $10,000, which will be through our Title I grant. Under item number 6, we're asking for board approval for the following tuition adjustment for the 2019-2020 school year for the following student attending Archway programs. This was at the adjusted cost as a result of a recent audit determined payment the district was required. That concludes student services.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second to accept the agenda?
I'll motion.
Any questions or comments?
I just have one brief thing. So the one program is not actively being eliminated, it's just being kind of moved up a level for the students' needs.
For the emotional regulation
Yes.
program? Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so it's listed as eliminated, but it's actually just a movement.
It's eliminated at Ravine Drive, and we have to establish it at Lloyd Road. And as per the Department of Education, we are required to ask for board approval for both.
Thank you for that. Correct.
Thank you. Personnel, Mr. Lehman?
Thank you. Good evening. Personnel Section A, resignations and retirements. The following staff members listed were either resignation or retirement and their respective effective dates. Under Section B, leave of absence for 21-22 school year, as listed, teacher name, position, staff member names, positions, and their effective dates. Section C, appointments, which begins on page 2 and continues on the top of page 3 with respective staff members that are asking for to approve this evening with their effective start dates. Item number 2, extracurricular activities for the 21-22 school year. Athletic activities and non-athletic activities are listed on page 3. This continues on page 4 with hourly activities. Item number 3, curriculum instruction, professional development presenters for 21-22. 2 staff members listed will be presenting at the teacher orientation this week. Item number 4, college student observers. This is on the bottom of page 4 and continues on top of page 5 and 9. Students' names are listed with their universities and their respective collaborating teachers. Item number 5, staff rate changes for the 21-22 school year. This begins on the bottom of page 5, continues on page 6, and concludes on top of page 7 and 9. A majority of the staff rate changes are assignment changes, however, there are some overloads that are listed as well. Item number 6, home instruction for 21-22 school year, 1 student is listed. Item number 7, volunteers for the 21-22 school year, with their location and activity is listed. Item number 8, mentor teachers for 21-22 school year. The mentor teachers are listed with their respective subjects and locations. This is in order for new teachers to conclude their certification process to go from provisional to standard. Item number 9, additional curricular revisions for summer 21. 1 staff member listed with their activity. Item number 10, additional summer recommendations for summer 21. 2 staff members listed with their activities. Item 11, substitutes for 21-22 school year. 2 staff members listed in their positions with costs. Item number 12, staff movement compensation for 21-22 school year. Staff members and their respective schools are listed. Item 13, perfect attendance for the 2021 school year. This is on the bottom of page 8, continues on top of page 99. These are staff members who earned perfect attendance last school year. Item D, other, number 1, HIB, there were no HIB recorded at the last board meeting. Item number 2 job descriptions that we're asking the board to approve this evening. And item 3, salary adjustments, 3 staff members listed for 21-22 school year. That concludes the personnel agenda.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second to accept the agenda?
I'll motion.
I'll second. Any questions or comments? Okay. Policy, Mr. Liebman.
Thank you. Policy, we are asking the board to adopt for second read policy that's listed. This is policy regulation 3142, policy regulation 3221, policy regulation 3222, policy regulation 3223, policy regulation 3224, policy regulation 4146, policy regulation 5460.02. That's for a second reading. We're asking the board to consider first reading this evening for policy 164811. It's first reading this evening. Second reading adoption will be the September 13th meeting. We're also asking the board to abolish the following policies. Policy 1648, 1648.02, 1648.030. The 3 policies that are listed to be abolished are being replaced by 1648.11. That concludes policy.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second to accept the agenda?
I'll motion to accept.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the policies? Okay. Finance, Ms. Case.
Good evening. We're going to take a motion for number 1, payroll for July and bills list for August. Number 2 is the reporting for April and May. Number 3, I'm going to ask that we table it until September's agenda. Number 4 is purchasing of Prometheum boards for the middle school. Number 5 is Shortel and Mitel to renew the telephone. 6 is the receipt of bids and awards for the athletic transportation bid. 7 is the request for proposal for a special education attorney going after an RFP. Number 8 is a change order for the Alyssa's Law. Number 9 is the approval of the dual use waivers for the educational spaces throughout the school delineated in the chart. Number 10 is updating our 2021-2022 purchasing manual for the year. Number 11 is approving the district organizational chart for the year. 12 is routine travel for the year. And 13 goes through our current evaluation drills. And that concludes finance.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second to accept the agenda?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments from board members?
I have one question, and that is just about the transportation. I just want to clarify that the funding for the reason why we couldn't have our internal busing was a scheduling issue. We just meant explain what that means?
So the time that the athletic bids are taking place is when we still need to transport students home for the day. So we need to go out for bidding. However, we did not secure bidding for most of September and October and part of November. We will still go out to bid for additional vendors and hopefully secure some routes in the meantime.
Thank you, that's
If we could just, on item number 7, in regards to special education, attorney, I asked a question about email prior to the meeting about funding for that. Can you just explain where that is coming from, only because we already have attorneys, so I just don't want to double check.
It will just shift from one funding source to the next. We only get billed for what we utilize, so it'll transfer to whoever is then awarded the bid.
That brings us to the board president's report. I'm happy to see so many community members here tonight, as well as I know we have a bunch probably on Zoom as well. I hope everyone's been enjoying their summer, spending time with their friends and family. Since this is the last board meeting prior to school opening on September 9th, I just wanted to wish all the students, staff, and families a wonderful first day of school. We all know here that there's been a lot of discussion in the community, and we've gotten a good amount of correspondence regarding the recent mask mandate and schools reopening in a few weeks. We know there are very strong feelings on this topic on both sides. The community, quite frankly, is very mixed from what we're hearing and seeing. Our number one priority, just to be clear, is reopening schools safely, full-time, in person, with as minimal disruption as possible. I think everybody here would agree with that statement. With that being said, I just wanted to share my personal perspective, because since I'm on the board, I also am a mom with 3 kids in the district, so I get to see things on both sides of the equation. So I just wanted to share my thoughts. As a mom, I can say that my kids are not fans of the masks. They wear them when they need to, and they've always worn them. Even last year in school, they wore them. But they do come home and they say things like, similar to what I'm hearing, that they're too hot, they can't breathe in them in the hallway. It's hard to hear and understand when the teachers or even their friends are talking to them. They have difficulty focusing, and one of them has even said to me that the mask breaks are the highlight of their day. So completely understand that what parents are going through on this. As a parent, there are also many inconsistencies out there right now that I think are confusing and frustrating for parents, such as my kids can go to their activities indoors without masks and a number of other places, but they need to go to school with them. We also hear data that's very conflicting, the news reports, social media. There's even differences depending on how you get your data and information and what source it's from. I've also gotten different viewpoints on vaccinating my children based on their age. Some doctors are telling me vaccinate them now, and others have said give it more time, wait a little longer. So it's no wonder that the community is so divided and they struggle to come together. As a parent, over the past year, I have also gotten notifications, like many parents I know, that one of my children may have been in contact with a potential positive. They may need to quarantine. I know how it feels and the concerns that go through your head when that happens. Will my child get it? How will they react if they do get it? Will they have exposed someone else, potentially my family or friends? How long will they be home from school? Will their sports and activities have to shut down? As a board member, our responsibility is to all the students and the overall school community, with the goal of having schools open full-time, in person, safely, and with as minimal disruption as possible. It's so important that the schools stay open this year. I think we can all agree that the kids do better when they're in school, not just academically, but socially, emotionally, and from a mental standpoint. There is currently an executive order in place that is the law we must follow. Do I believe that every district is different? Yes. We have sat here as a board from day one saying we cannot compare ourselves to other districts, that every district has unique needs and situations. But when we talk about local decisions, to me, that means doing our research, looking at our specific community needs, what the transmission rates are, vaccination rates, what do our facilities and safety precautions look like, and taking into account the health guidance we get from the state and local officials, which is how we responsibly approached this past school year. Sometimes we made decisions that weren't always what everyone wanted to hear, but they were made with safety in mind, with the information we had available. The last thing we want to see happen is students, staff get COVID or have our schools shut down due to an increase in numbers. As a board, we've had discussions with our board attorney regarding this executive order. Mr. Rubin, would you mind sharing with the community what you shared with us in private session?
Thank you, Mrs. Coley, and good evening, everyone. Normally, the discussions I've had with the board about their legal rights and responsibilities take place in closed session and private as they should. But given the exigencies of this situation, the board has asked me to share with you some of what I've shared with them in private. And let me make clear that, you know, as a grandfather of 6 school-age children myself, spread across 3 different districts, I have my own opinion about these executive orders, but I come tonight not as a grandfather of 6 school-age children, but as a legal advisor to the district, and part of my job is to make sure that whatever the board does, and I've given them a range of options of what they're able to do, that they do so with their eyes open. And one question that I was asked by the board was, how legally binding is this executive order, and what are the consequences if the board were to violate it? It's quite clear that the executive order that's out there, and executive orders of governors in general, are not suggestions, they're not recommendations, they're not non-binding guidance. Whether we like them or not, they are the law, they are binding, and there are consequences for violating them. If you were to look at the executive order, you know, go online and take a look at it, if you scroll down to the bottom of it, it doesn't spell out in plain English what the consequences are, but it refers to a couple of different statutes you'll see referred to down toward the bottom of the executive order. One is a statute that is referred to as A9-49. You'll see a reference to that in there. What does that mean? Sounds like a lot of legalese, and it is. But if you were to cut and paste that reference and put it into your browser and look it up, what you'd see is that that is a provision that says that anybody who violates that order, who facilitates the violation of the order, or anybody who helps somebody violate the order is subject to prosecution in municipal court as a disorderly person. There could be substantial fines, potentially imprisonment for up to 6 months. Of course, that depends on whether somebody files a complaint. Will somebody file a complaint? Maybe, maybe not. Will the municipal court judge impose those sorts of sanctions on somebody who's even found guilty? Maybe, maybe not. But part of my job as board attorney is to at least alert the board to what the potential consequences are. So that is one potential consequence. There are other potential consequences for violating the executive order as well. Under the School Ethics Act, school board members can be prosecuted under the School Ethics Act for violating that law if they authorize anything that is in violation of the existing law, at least until it's rescinded or overturned. There is a possibility, however far-fetched, but it's a possibility that the state can withhold state aid for districts that do not follow existing law. And one other possibility that's out there, again, we can debate how far-fetched it is, but it is a possibility, is that the state, for better or worse, has determined that people need to wear masks inside school buildings in order to maintain safety. We may agree with that, we may disagree with it, but if we were to have wholesale violation of that, there is the possibility that health officials, state, regional, or local, could come in and determine that we have an unsafe environment here and do the last thing anybody wants, which is shut down the schools for being unsafe in their view, which is something nobody wants. So again, we're not judging the law, that's not my place to do, but part of my job is to make sure that the board members are aware of what the potential consequences are for violating it. So with the board's permission, I've been allowed to share with you some of what I've shared with them back in private. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Rubin. So with that, we have prepared a letter to send to the governor, but asking for clarification and a process to be created to better understand how a district can regain local control of the masking decision made for their specific community. So to be clear, it's not saying mask optional, it's saying let the law, how can we get to a place where local districts can regain that control again? And the letter would lay out, or it does lay out, what we have done over the past year, how we feel that we have been responsible, and that we would look at the what's going on in the community, transmission rates, vaccination rates, everything I outlined earlier, and ask for his permission. With that being said, we're going to move to public comment. We want to hear from all the community members tonight who want to speak. We know that there are going to be differing opinions, and we ask that you act respectfully and give each community member a chance to voice their opinion. As you give your comment, if you want to build on what the person before you has said, that's fine. Just we please ask that you not attack other community members' opinions. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on matters of interest to the school community. Individuals wishing to speak must state their name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes duration, but an individual may speak a second time after all others who wish to speak on the topic have been heard. All statements should be directed to the board president, and no participant may address or question board members individually. All speakers are requested to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others whose legal rights may be affected. Please note, while it is not the board's intention to stifle comment on matters of legitimate concern, the public should be aware that if their statements violate the rights of others under the law of defamation or invasion of privacy, they may face personal liability to the injured party. If speakers are uncertain of the legal ramifications of their comments, the board urges them to seek guidance beforehand from their own legal advisor. Sorry, I just need a motion to go into public comments. And second? And if you want to line up for your turn at the podium, that would be great. Yes, so you could just state your name and address.
My name is Yoshi Zukai, and my address is 49 Inglewood Lane. And my question is, can the board file a lawsuit against the executive order?
Anybody can file a lawsuit against anybody for anything. I might say there is already a lawsuit pending in federal court involving this. I'll keep my comments about the merits of it in private with the board in closed session, but there already is a legal proceeding pending in federal court where some folks are challenging that order, and then we'll find out how successful they'll be.
So we're already in the process?
Pardon me?
Is the board already in the process of fighting it, or that's someone else's lawsuit?
That's someone else's lawsuit.
That's a private citizen?
It's a private citizen. That's
Okay. And we can't have the board do the same?
Well, the board can decide for itself whether it wants to get involved in a lawsuit or not. That's something we would discuss in
That would be a good
session.
thing?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, sir.
I'm sorry. It would be a good thing? It would be a good thing.
Oh, are you asking me or telling us?
So I think we were saying that we would need to discuss that in closed session.
As with any lawsuit, if the board wants to talk about filing a lawsuit on anything, we'll discuss it in closed session. You'll get my candid opinion, and you'll do as you see fit.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Cindy Santora. You actually know me, and Dr. Ann knows me, but I'd rather not give my address. Okay, so at my job, I have learned to not assume that the powers that be know the facts and numbers in my department, that they might sometime rely on false news, bad information, or downright gossip. I am the director of training for over 150 employees and report directly to the president of my company. Just a little backstory. I would like to share some facts with you about COVID-19 and children. As of 8/20/21, 420 children 0 to 18 has died from COVID. Out of 75 million children, that represents 0.00056% of the population. And while this is a tragic number, it shows us that children's deaths from COVID is very rare. Children under 15 are more likely to drown in a residential pool than die from COVID. Approximately 303 kids in the entire 18 months of the pandemic has drowned, compared to 134 children under 15 who has died from COVID. Children under 15 are 2 times more likely to die in a residential pool than die from COVID. You would think we would stop putting pools in our yards, but actually during the pandemic, that number has tripled. The overall great news is in 2020 and 2021, there has been no increase in child mortality rates within the 0 to 15 age group. For older children and young adults, mortality rates have gotten worse, but not due to COVID. The age group 15 to 24 constitutes 90% of youth suicides. From 2019 to 2021, attempted suicides increased 51%. Deaths of despair are on the rise. Deaths due to suicide, illegal drug use, and alcoholism has all increased due to the mental stress of COVID-19. An acceleration of overdose deaths during the pandemic is reflected in the 30% increase in deaths in the U.S. Young adults from 15 to 24 are 5 times more likely to die from overdose than COVID-19. As of the 19th, there has been no children deaths from the Delta variant in New Jersey. The death number for kids under 17 has remained the same since March 2021 at 7. 2 of the 7 children were school-aged between the ages of 5 and 17. This number represents the entire pandemic, and all children had pre-existing conditions. The number 1 death for children in New Jersey is accidents, which is well over 100 per year. Suicides in children 5 to 17 in New Jersey are over 30 for the year. Just a little bit of context. Okay, so why am I sharing these numbers with you? I would like to request the board to ask Murphy to rescind Executive Order 251 and return local control to the board. I can show up at these meetings and speak about facts, and then the board can decide. If I disagree, I then have the ability to have my vote talk for me during BOE elections. It will be one second. I am aware that the board is in a tough spot. It will be unable to make everyone unhappy or happy. I'm okay with that. It will be a tough decision that hopefully we make based on facts, not emotions. My first question. Many districts have dropped the crisis go and are no longer requiring screening before classes. Is the Matawan Aberdeen Regional School District dropping crisis go since it is no longer mandated?
Yes.
Hallelujah. So exciting, right? Okay. Second question. Executive Order 251 has many exceptions to the order. There are districts who are offering parental choice based on the wording of Executive Order 251. Some saying that the use of tools can be called pencils. Others saying that, you can say your child can't breathe and you just have to write a letter. Will the district offer parents of the district to make masks optional based on letters from parents that state that masks are bad for their children's mental or physical health? Thank you.
Mr. Ruby, you can comment on that?
Sure. Yes, I've shared with the board in closed session my own prediction, if you will, as to how the state would deal with policies that give lip service to violating the executive order, to obey the executive order, while at the same time in substance essentially allow parents to decide for themselves whether their child will wear a uniform mask or not. Without judging whether that's a good result or a bad result, it's pretty clear to me that that result is not what the executive order has in mind. And I think the governor himself today made it very clear in public announcements that the state will be coming after districts that attempt to, as I said, pay lip service to the executive order while clearly violating it. So whether the board wants to take that risk or not is something that we've discussed in closed session and they continue to do so, but I'm certainly not in a position to give the board a clean opinion that you can do exactly what the executive order says we shouldn't be doing, whether I agree with it or not.
Katrina Sokolov, 47 Inglewood Lane, Aberdeen, New Jersey. I am a mother of a 5-year-old boy who is about to go to kindergarten this fall. On August 19th, I sent you an email with the statistics that the previous speaker laid out pretty clearly. And from this report that I sent to you, it is a report by American Academy of Pediatrics dated August 12, 2021. It's pretty clear that COVID is not deadly for children. It is a not deadly risk to our kids. So in order to mitigate this non-deadly risk, our governor is ordering that our children should be wearing rags over their faces for 6 hours a day while trying to learn how to speak, how to read, how to socialize, and it's just unacceptable. When I go shopping for a mask, I can't find a single one that would say approved by CDC. Not a single one. It's non-approved medical apparatus. What I do see is disclaimers on every single mask that says, for non-medical use only, or not intended for antimicrobial or antiviral protection or related uses. So can you tell me what this rug over my child's face is supposed to do if it's cannot guarantee any protection from any viral disease? What is that? What is it on this face for? Why? We can argue about these masks all day long, and as I think I think the superintendent Mike actually told one of his parents that we can bring 50 doctors here and have 50 opinions on those masks, which is true, and it only confirms how controversial this policy is. So ultimately, it's not the masks that we're fighting here, it's the mandate. Parents who are in favor of wearing masks, if the masks are optional, that they can continue to put as many masks they want on their children. It is their choice, their rights are not violated, their demands are met, everybody's happy, and kids are wearing masks voluntarily. But what are we left to do here? Parents who know that their children cannot tolerate masks, cannot thrive in school wearing masks, cannot learn wearing masks, and can't breathe in them. We are called knuckleheads. This is what they're called. So now this is where you come into picture. I know that board members tend to say that your hands are tied, that you don't have any choice, that you have to obey the order, but I'm sorry, it's factually not true. You were elected here to represent the best children of our children, the best interest of our children in this district. Not teachers' union, not state authorities, our kids. So if we take a close look at Murphy's order, we can see what it says. It says that the school district must maintain a policy regarding mandatory use of face masks. The wording gives you some flexibility when it comes to actual policy. What I think we should do and must do is to create a policy that facilitates the use of exemptions. One of the exemptions, quote, say, when the individual has trouble breathing. I strongly encourage you that you implement a policy where a letter from parents to the school is sufficient to use this exemption. And I know, your attorney told you that, it might not be the case, but you can see Middletown School District doing that. They actually went for legal advice. They took an advice from an attorney, and this firm is actually right here in Mattawan. So why don't you explore this possibility? When there is a will, there is a way. Secondly, I urge the board to pass a resolution and include in the policy that no child shall be disciplined by a way of suspension, detention, or being sent home for failure to wear a mask. No government, no executive order can make you discipline our children. This is your choice. The sanctions are totally up to you. And number 3, I respectfully ask you that you join other municipalities such as Holmdel, Hazlet, Middletown, Manasquan, Walbrook, and many, many others, and contact our governor, but not with the wording that, I'm sorry, you mentioned before, trying to clarify how to use the order. No, with the request to cancel it, period. And put matters back in your hands. He's taking your decision-making power. Aren't you offended by it? You're supposed to be making these decisions, not one guy in New Jersey. And on a personal note, one way or another, my child is going to school in September. He's going to kindergarten, and he's going to learn math-free. Whether it's going to be in Strathmore Elementary or somewhere else, it's really up to you to decide. I have the unenrollment letter typed up on my computer, and if you guys don't take an action, I'm sending it on September 9th, and I will make sure that I copy the warden and the superintendent in. Thank you for your attention.
Hello everyone, my name is Abby Berg. I live in Second Point Apartments in Matawan. My question is this, I actually have a question. Worst best case scenario, nothing happens, the schools stay open. What is the board's plan if there are outbreaks? And what do you guys plan to do if we have to go virtual? I have 3 kids in this district, 2 in the middle school, and with a big sigh, one coming here next year. Unfortunately, but it is what it is. And my kids floundered. I have a child going to 4th grade, and I can honestly say that she's not prepared. This last year and a half has been a disaster. Her handwriting still looks like it's a little 1st grader. She definitely does not have the ability to be, I don't think she's on a 4th grade level, and I dare to say she had one of the best teachers in district, Miss Royston, last year, and she was phenomenal, with the online learning, but all 3 of my kids floundered. I had one son who failed a few classes because he came into contact, but not really, but yeah, and he missed the last of his school, like last 2 weeks of the, marking period. I have another child who went from pretty much straight A's to barely passing. And I know as a single mom who has her own business and I work from home, and if I don't work, I don't make any money, I don't have like a monthly or weekly paycheck that just go somewhere and come back. I am an awful teacher. I could teach my kids how to tie-dye, and I could teach them how to write grades. That's about it. So I'm just curious as to what's the plan, what if? What if we have to close? What are you guys going to do to make it better than it was? And can you guys guarantee that if it does have to close, that when they do go back, that the kids aren't going to be sitting in a classroom in front of a computer, so they're basically remote but in classroom? Because it was a disaster, a complete disaster, at least in my house.
If there's quarantine involved, then those students that are quarantined will be asynchronous learning, so the classroom will be into the home, like it was in some places last year. So if we have to quarantine, we'll be synchronously learning with the students that are home on quarantine with the students in their classroom.
Can I follow up on the question?
Yes.
And then, how do you guys determine what is contact? Because I know, just as an aside, the person said that the school called me last year, my son was in contact, and he wasn't even in the classroom when the contact happens. And when you say synchronous, what does that mean? That there's going to be like a camera in the classroom and the teacher's going to be teaching it that way? I don't know if any of you agree with me, but that's like a disastrous plan, in my personal opinion, because then that means that as a parent, right, I have to stop what I'm doing, sit in with them, and make sure not only are they like paying attention, but they're not clicking on other things, and that they're doing what they're doing. I mean, is there any other option if there's, like, can you come in with a negative COVID test? I mean, is there anything else? Because if my kids miss any more in-classroom actual learning, like, we're doing a disservice to the community because they're going to be pushed out into this world and they're going to be like, not very educated, personally.
Let me address one of the questions I do ask, which is how do we define a close contact? And one of the problems that we have, those of us who occupy school districts, is that the guidance from Trenton, just like with the news cycle, when they release things on a Friday afternoon, you know that it's not intended for wide distribution or for people to see it immediately. About once a week, if not more than once a week, the Department of Education has been issuing updated guidance. As recently as this past Friday, they have redefined what constitutes a close contact, and have redefined it as of this past Friday to say, if I'm understanding it correctly, that if two students, they define, within 6 feet and for more than 15 minutes or whatever that normal standard is, but then they say that if two students, one infected, one not infected, are in contact with each other, but both are wearing masks appropriately, they will not be considered a close contact for purposes of that. That's the latest guidance. That's right. So this is what we deal with, folks. They hand these down to us. We try to disseminate them quickly to the districts. But the answer to your question, how do they define, as of last Friday, that's how they define close contact. And by the way, that definition does not apply to staff, only to students who are wearing masks. Go figure. So next week it may be different guidance, but this is the latest as of last Friday, and I'm just sharing with you some of what we're struggling with here. So the rest of your questions, I'll defer to the superintendent. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Bonner, I-section. I have a quick question. Moving forward, I know the virtual Board of Ed meetings up until tonight have gone away. What I understand is if you're at home and virtual, you cannot make comment, you can only listen to it. Can you clarify that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
So all this past year, the Board of Ed meetings have been virtual, essentially for parents who are working or have multiple kids, can't figure out childcare, they've been able to dial in, listen to the meeting, and make comment. Tonight is the first night since that went away that you guys sent out a link, but from what I understood, you weren't able to participate like how I am now, virtually. It was just to listen in. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is that going to change? Because the technology is there. We did it for this past year. I have a small baby at home, 3 kids, so it's very difficult for me to get out and sit here as I know everybody else. So to be able to have that option, since the technology is there, can we make that moving forward?
As a board, we are going to discuss if we can take the next step with that, or if we're going to leave it as live stream. But yes, we are going to have that discussion.
Okay, because I know even during virtual, even if you weren't able to speak, you were able to put your comment and somebody read it and then answered that.
And the reason why we went to full in-person versus virtual is because there was no more virtual school. So we were trying to be consistent, have everybody in person.
But the technology is there. You're talking about parents who are trying to juggle multiple things, as you know, you're a parent. I, along with the people that spoke ahead, switching gears, I would like the letter that you are writing to Governor Murphy to have the choice brought back to local government. As a parent, I have no problem with allowing another parent to make a choice for their child. If they feel that this little piece of fabric is going to protect their child, even though all last year everyone was wearing them, kids still got COVID. I don't know what else it's doing. I have 2 kids, one entering 1st grade. We decided to keep him private because he was in person last year and he did not have to wear a mask. He has speech delay, so for him to now go from 7 kids in his class to now into 1st grade, 20-something kids, sitting behind plexiglass, now learning how to use a laptop, wearing a mask, where the teacher not going to be able to understand him because he has clarity issues, diction. His classmates aren't going to understand him. It's very upsetting as a child, and even in that position, I feel privileged. What about the special education population? They no longer have a choice. And there's plenty of people that don't want to speak up, but what do you have to say for them? Our severely autistic population who now can be in virtual, which, we can all agree that population doesn't really work. Now they can't wear a mask. They can't get a medical exemption. So like the parent spoke before, what kind of exemptions are you going to be allowed? Because a lot of the districts have sent out, you know, their scans, and all we've gotten so far is just sending us the mandate, which legally, I was under the impression that it was just a mandate, not an executive order. So if it's just a mandate, it's a mandate. Is it in fact an executive order?
It is an executive order that does contain within it certain exemptions.
Okay. So what are those exceptions?
I don't have it in front of me, but they're paraphrasing. There is one for for bona fide medical reasons. There's one for bona fide IEP-driven reasons. There's a couple of more in there. I don't have the executive order in front of me, but the exemptions are provided right in the order itself. But it is part of that same legally binding executive order I was referring to before.
Okay, and that can only come from a medical doctor, not a parent, like Middletown has found the legal loophole.
Well, again, without going into what I've discussed with the board privately, I think that the governor who issued that order made it clear today, and whether we agree with him or not, he's made it clear this afternoon in public statements that he will not view merely statements from parents as being sufficient. Whether we think it should be or not is another matter, but he's the one who issued the order. He's the one who said today what he meant by it. So he would say no.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
We have to, sorry ma'am, we have to keep going. Go ahead.
I read his comment today, and he just said that something like along the lines that, I don't know if anybody knows exactly, something like that's disappointing. Not like we're gonna come after you or anything like that. I must have missed that article. I don't know if that's what he specifically said. But like the other parents said, you guys represent us as a community. So he's just one guy that is up for re-election in November. Just as that everybody, you know, the seats that are open on his board, which overnight I'll enjoy. I'm trying hard to believe after all the muck that we just went through this year and a half, how you wouldn't be outraged that the decision-making was taken away from you once again. And now you guys have to muddle through all this minutia. And with something as so simple as having and making a decision for your child leaves you helpless. And then the people that, you know, are supposed to be protecting your child aren't fighting back. And that's upsetting. And I really hope you reconsider the way, what language you use in the letter going to him, because if you don't put anything as making it optional, as in asking for local power back, then what is the point of it? It's really not going to make a stand on anything. Well, the question you're asking is almost like a clerical thing. You can easily find that out and have them clarify it for you. It's not really taking a stand. So I don't understand what the thinking behind that was. It's okay, you can answer. I'm
Just to be clear, the letter that we've written does also explain why we should be trusted with this decision on a local level. So we do get into that. We also get into some facts because we do look at the data. There's a lot of data out there. We are in a very different position right now than we were in June and September. But we don't get into that in the letter. We get into our vaccination rates, things like that, because quite frankly, they are pretty good in town, vaccination rates. So we are, yes, there is more detail there.
Okay, and will we be getting a copy of that letter? And when is it being
It goes public.
Say?
It will go public.
Okay. And we still have plexiglass on the desks, correct?
Well, plexiglass can be optional for,
Okay,
So
so we
if
spent all that money last year and delayed being in person longer because of plexiglass, and now the plexiglass is optional, even though it provide us for kids in lower elementary to be able to, okay, you want to wear your mask in the hallway? Fine, whatever. That's going to make everybody happy. But once they sit at that desk and everyone has plexiglass, they should be able to take their mask off. So why is the plexiglass optional? When we couldn't even go in person last year without the plexiglass. I don't understand.
the masks are mandated right now.
Right, but who is deciding whether the plexiglass is optional? Do I, as a parent, have to check off, I want my child to have plexiglass? Or does the teacher decide?
It would be a request from the parent to keep the plexiglass, yes.
I'm sorry.
It would be a request from the parents stating that they want to keep the plexiglass with their student, with their child.
Okay, so if I'm able to opt to have the plexiglass and because of my child's speech delay, be able to take his mask off behind that, that would be considered an exemption because he will not thrive in a learning environment wearing a mask due to that. That's considered a disability. We haven't been in public school yet for him, so right now, because nobody's in session, he doesn't see the school speech therapist until September 1st when she returns back. So he's in private. He has an evaluation, he has everything. That is my biggest fear, is that he's going to sit in school and he's not going to speak. And so he's just going to sit with the mask on all day. So I would like to have the exemption to be able to say, okay, look at this glass up. He goes to the bathroom and wears it, even though, he's a first grade boy, they're disgusting. Their fingers could be all open face, they're touching door handles, going to the bathroom. I don't know what this is going to do, but if it's going to make other people happy, then I'd be happy to allow him to wear it in the hallways. But I want, when he's in a classroom, to be able to speak and other people hear him and understand him. And the teacher correct him if he's saying things the wrong way. As you know, first grade is a huge learning curve. You're getting more, stronger in reading and things like that. This is a big fear of mine. And I shouldn't be put in this position by people that are supposed to have his best interest. So is that going to be is that a possibility that I'm able to do that for him?
Yeah, I can address that. In the executive order, there is an exemption, and without getting into the exact wording of the order, for what I would call IEP-driven, bona fide IEP-driven reasons why masks should be exempt. There's a mechanism in there where, through consultation with the child study team, a decision can be made to exempt it if there are what I call bona fide IEP-driven reasons under either IDEA or Section 504. If there's disagreement between the family and the child study team over whether it applies or not, presumably that can be challenged and appealed, but there is a mechanism for that sort of an exemption if the child study team agrees with you that it's appropriate.
Okay. That's all I can think of right now. But I hope you guys make the right decision in the language that you use in the letter, and that when my son shows up with no mask on, that he's not going to be sent away. Is that something that the schools, principals are being prepared for parents that are going to be sending their children to school with no mask? Are they just going to be sending them back home?
Those things are being discussed right now, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to send out a letter?
I am, as I've done for the last 7 years I've been here.
I know, I'm getting
Absolutely. In
anxious.
fact, Thursday, I'm going to be sending out a letter, a welcome back that goes over a lot of the things we're discussing tonight.
Okay,
Yep.
fantastic.
And
I'm ready to read
if
it.
you'd like to discuss the exemptions more, you can call me tomorrow, and I can get as specific as I can with your individual situation.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Appreciate
Yep.
it.
I also want to ask that the wording of the letter is a little bit more precise. I would like the Board of Education to use the broadest interpretations under the BO 251. I have it right here, and one of the first one says, when doing so, we prohibit the individual's health, such as when the individual is exposed to extreme heat indoors, such as. Doesn't say when the individual's health is exposed to extreme heat indoors, it says such. When the individual has trouble breathing, I don't think anybody can really be involved with that. So if we could use the broadest interpretations, instead of asking for clarification, I would suggest, and I would implore you to use the broadest interpretations that we're allowed to make parents have a choice for themselves. I also want to take this time to thank you. Under the leadership of Ms. Foley, we made leaps and bounds in progress at the end of last year, and I know that it was a lot of the work of members of this board and with Dr. Light that happened, so I appreciate it. I love the principals were involved. Mr. Weiler was excellent. We had a great senior year. We had a fourth marking period of senior year. So I wanted to take that time to thank you guys. I know that you wanted more, I can tell. I think we can all feel that, and I think that the best way to do that is to just try to interpret this in the most broadest way possible so that our kids can have as normal a school as possible. My son's going to be a junior this year. He has yet to have a normal year of school. Thank you.
does such the lettering or the wording? Like,
Well, I think as far as my interpretation and how blood can be put, I think that's probably more appropriate discussion for closed session with the board because there's various risks involved in deciding how broad you want to take it. Risks the board is free to take, but I think a risk assessment is something that probably is most appropriate to be discussed in closed session.
okay, now.
Hi, my name is Courtney McMillan. I live at 41 Idaho Lane. I would also like to say a huge thank you to you guys. I'm sure none of this has been easy. I've not always agreed with the decisions you've made, but I've never once doubted that you are looking out for the best interests of our kids. My daughter is about to enter second grade, and she has not had a normal year of school. It is extremely sad to me. I was very worried when I thought that masks weren't going to be mandated. I am very happy that they are going to be. I see the images coming out of Texas, Georgia, Florida, and it is heartbreaking to me that these kids are now being put on, intubated and on ventilators because it's just gotten so out of control. So I know that I may be in the minority in this room. I like to think I'm not the minority in the community. And to those in this room, I do not want my kid masked any more than you do. But if it's going to keep her safe and my son and your kids safe, that's my other biggest fear is that, God forbid, my kid gets sick and then gets your kid sick. I would never want to feel like I was responsible for that. And I would say it seems like a way to get out of these masks to get everybody that can be vaccinated. So if you know someone, please let her speak, please. Would she let her speak? And on that note, my question for you is that if things change and we are able to decide that masks are optional, would you at least let parents like myself have a choice to put our kids in all masked classrooms?
Hello, good evening. My name is Elaine McCallion. I live in Aberdeen. I have 3 children. My 3 children I pulled out from the district last year, and I have not yet re-enrolled them. I just wanted to piggyback on a couple of commenters who spoke about the lawsuit, potential lawsuit for the executive order. And I just want to say, if you fight for us and our children in the community, we will fight for you. So if you do this for the community, and something gets taken to court, I will be there, and I know the community will be there to support you. So if you're concerned about fines or your position, we will fight with you. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, hi, my name is Amy Wendell, and I just want to say I am against segregation and discrimination of any kind whatsoever. You know, like I have a 5-year-old, and he eats, chews, and licks his mask. He's been in daycare since the pandemic, because I'm also a healthcare worker, and he was getting raw around his face, and he chews and licks on it, and it's an infection control issue. And the daycare he's in now, he doesn't wear it. He has never worn it, only when the teacher put him on it a few times, and he's been fine that entire time. None of the kids in that school got COVID. They closed once for a couple days. So just so everybody freaking out and scared here, my kids have been fine that entire time. Second of all, as a healthcare worker, I can tell you what protects you. See our friend over here who has some eye goggles, a face shield. We wear an N95 and a mask on top of that. That's what's going to protect you, not these cloth masks. Okay? You get your N95 over you're good. And I work on the COVID unit as well. And I will tell you, all of our residents survived. They all lived. And, you just have to take proper precautions. Wash your hands. But that's the real protection right there with your
N95 the mask over. But my question to you is, I do want to know what you are doing for kids with autism and kids like the 5-year-old who's going into school, so he doesn't have an IEP program yet. What are you doing for those children with regard to the mask? Because some kids with sensory issues and stuff have a really hard time. I have a brother who's autistic. I mean, he's okay wearing the mask, but I've seen kids ripped off of planes and stuff like that for not being able to wear a mask, and it breaks my heart. So I want to know, what are you doing for those children?
We're dealing with each one of those on a case-by-case basis as they come forward. Are you talking about an exemption to the mask? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm talking about like children with autism who really honestly can't wear them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're dealing with each one of those on a case-by-case basis that comes forward.
Okay. Also, like kids with asthma, you're giving them mask breaks and stuff like that, because I wear a mask all day, every day. And like my friend over there, I look like him with a couple other masks on top of me, and it's hard to breathe, and I get headaches, my chest hurts, and I'll do it for my seniors. But I'm saying it is hard for the kids, especially, these masks, they really, really work. So
Yes, absolutely, mask breaks, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And I do want to say thank you all. And I want to say thank you to all the teachers. The teachers probably have went through a really hard time last year. And, I know it was rough for everybody, but I do want to thank everybody because I know what they went through because your world is like tons apart in a few days and you have to get it together really quickly. So thank you, everybody.
Hello, my name is Kevin Ward, living number 7 Clinton Street. I have more statements than questions. First, I'd like to congratulate this board on your ability to not answer a single question tonight. Being evasive is truly a skill upon itself. You have been elected to this position to represent this district. So far this year, I have seen nothing but the teachers of this district be on a year-long vacation, not instructing children, not caring about the instructions of the children. We had, during our year of homeschooling, we've been scolded for being in the shot of the camera, on the Zoom meeting, numerous other, acts of nonsense on behalf of the district. This board, again, has done nothing. You continue to do nothing. All I've heard tonight is the attorney for the board saying, we've discussed this in closed session. We've discussed this in closed session. This room is basically mandating you to file a lawsuit on their behalf, not write a letter. This is absurd. You said yourself that your kids come home from school and say, we can't hear the teachers. What good is it being in school if you can't even hear the person who's instructing you? I would like the board, please, to grow some testicular fortitude and file the lawsuit